Welcome to Film in Focus. I am the Cinema Professor, and this is the first of a series of special shows that should take us nearly till Christmas, pretty much till Christmas. And it's basically to mark the end of me looking at the science fiction genre, which I started over a year ago, and we have come to this point. So me and Ray Turner, who's in the studio. Hello, Ray.
Hello. Keith.
How's it going?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fan-davidozy. It's good to have you on board the starship, which is fitting because it's sci-fi. It looks like a starship in here, to be fair. So yes, as I did with comedy, and Ray chipped in on this one, but this time he's going all in because me and Ray have come up with our individual top 50 science fiction films of all time. And so just to explain, these lists are very personal, so you can always debate the order of things, you can always debate what films we left off that should be on there, vice versa, but these are very personal lists, and we'll sort of explain some of the reasoning behind them. Just a couple of rules that I sort of put down for this. One is...
I didn't hear the rules.
No, I did tell you, so you should be fine.
I've forgotten them.
So, oh dear, I'll tell you. I'll tell you if you break one of them. I'll be sure to come down on you.
One. Not like on air, though, sure.
No, yeah. One is that there's no short films allowed, just feature films. Okay, we'll get to that. And the other is that trilogies are allowed, and that's for the simple reason then the trilogy of films is one continuing story that ends in the third and final film, so they continue on. So trilogies are allowed for this list, and obviously there are some notable trilogies in the sci-fi genre. If you want to get in touch tonight and sort of comment on our list, give your thoughts, but also if you want to chip in with your own list, just some of your favourites, maybe a top 10 or 5, or just a few of your favourite sci-fi movies, then you can text the show. It's 07399 085508. Or you can email studio@beyondradio.co.uk. I'll read those details out again later. But if you want to chip in tonight with your favourite sci-fi films, you're more than welcome. So tonight we're going to start off with the idea is we'll do 10 per week, roughly. So tonight it's going to be number 50 to number 41, because that is 10 exactly.
And you're going to start.
I'm going to start. So we'll make a start and see how we go. This should be a lot of fun. So my number 50, and I guess this is because I had to get a David Lynch film in somehow. I considered Eraserhead because there is sort of sci-fi elements in there, but I decided it wasn't enough of a sci-fi, so that maybe is one of my honourable mentions. But, of course, you all guessed it probably. It is Dune from 1984. So this is a film I haven't really discussed on the show, so in case you don't know, it's famously from the Frank Herbert novel, very hard to adapt. Of course, Denis Villeneuve is going to have his go next year with his version of it. And notoriously, there was all sorts of politics on the set with the author interfering, and it became a troubled production. And Lynch has said it's the only time then really he's not had full control over one of his projects. So it's one of those that, in my opinion, unfairly goes down as a bit of a turkey. I think it is flawed, I'll accept that. It probably is my least favourite Lynch film. But I still think there are things in there that make it worth watching. I really love the Brian Eno prog rock style score. I love the universe that Lynch creates, the visual style, the sets I think are just brilliant. You know, it's a decent cast, and there is some good campy fun to be had.
Yeah.
So there are things in there that make it a solid watch, if a bit of a flawed sort of mess as well.
I agree. I saw it when it came out in a big West End cinema in London, and I really enjoyed it, I have to say. And I've gone off it over time. I've sort of done... I liked it when it was kind of getting bad reviews and everything else. That's really good. But the more I see it now, the more I kind of
so it flipped around for you.
It did a bit. I mean, but it's got a couple of moments, and there's the bit where the Baron kills a slave. And it's really gruesome. It's really disturbing. It's real Lynch sort of thing. It's you don't see it. You just see the reactions of the people. Kind of enjoying the spectacle of it, and it's really quite stomach churning.
There are a few disturbing moments,
and the Harkonnen palace, which is shaped like a giant head, which I think came from when what's his name? The other guy was Alessandro. I can't think what his name is. The other director.
Oh his name. I know the one you mean.
Yeah, and typically it's gone now. But he was, and I think that was where that image, the castle looking like a head. So some of that iconography, I think, comes from him, and some is from David Lynch. But it's beautiful to look at. It's a beautiful film to look at. I
think it's certainly unfair to call it a turkey, which a lot of people have.
It was the most expensive film ever made at the time.
And
it didn't. I don't think it made its money back.
No, which is actually a rare Lynch film not to. I think most of them normally break at least even. And of course, once he was attached to one of the Star Wars films.
Was he?
Yeah, I think it was Return of the Jedi, and what a fascinating film that would have been.
Well, that's quite interesting because I've got an example of something similar actually in my list where we had a director who didn't make a film, and and although I like the film, I would love to have seen it, but we'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Today,
interesting.
I think.
So that's my number 50, which is June. Ray, what is your?
Well, mine's I'm kind of taking the same tack that I did with the comedy, and my number 50 is a Georges Méliès movie. So this is very old, 1902, and it's La Voyage dans la Lune.
Okay.
In my best Inspector Clouseau accent. So it's a trip to the moon, and it's the really famous one with the rocket going into the moon's eye, and the moon is like a face, and the rocket goes into the eye.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's like I don't know if it's the first science fiction film ever made, but it's
certainly one of the.
It's one of the very earliest, and Georges Méliès is one of the kind of pioneers in this field. So that's a short film, so it's kind of 15 minutes long, I think.
Okay.
But I mean, it's just an incredibly charming film, and there's no plot to speak of. It's you're just watching the special effects as these kind of people go to the moon, which is full of like giant mushrooms and things which sprout up, and then there's these kind of lobster creatures living on the moon, and they whack them with their umbrellas and they explode, and it's just a lot of fun, and that's what I think a lot of Georges Méliès films were like, and and in fact, if you see Hugo, about the making of all these films, you get a sense of the fun they were having, and it obviously all did go a bit wrong for him, but it picked up again, which is
the Martin Scorsese film.
The Martin Scorsese Hugo, yeah, which and there has a few flashbacks of them making. I think possibly even that one, I can't remember, but it's just you just get this sense of how much fun they kind of had, and it was fun. It's fun to watch, and it's very charming, and it's old now. It's 117 years old now.
Yeah, well, amazing. Good pick. Especially since I sort of started with that movie, at the start of my look at the sci-fi.
Right.
So it makes sense it's your number 50. Before we move on to my next pick, we have an email, first of the night. This is from presenter and fan Ian Clemenston. Okay. Hi, Keith. This is Ian Clemenston. My top 5 sci-fi films in reverse order. Number 5, Metropolis. Number 4, interesting one, The Peter Castle in the Sky. So that's a Studio Ghibli film. Not sure I've seen that one, actually. No, I've seen a lot of theirs, but... So that's his number 4. Number 3, Close Encounters of the Third Time. Good choice. Number 2, 2001, A Space Odyssey. And number 1, the original Star Wars trilogy, especially The Empire Strikes Back. So there you have it.
Good choice.
Yeah, solid list. Really, really good list to kick us off. Thank you, Ian. And Ian will be on the radio a bit later on after my show, 10:30, I believe. So there you have it. Thanks for getting involved. So my number 49, gone for something a little bit more fun and light-hearted this time. Fantastic Voyage from 1966. It's sort of, it's an early, really fun sort of B-movie idea, which has been reproduced loads of times since. And it just reminds me of this really light-hearted, tongue-in-cheek Sunday afternoon type film. You get together, you watch with your family. There's a cast of good character actors. Donald Pleasant's always good to see in a film.
Raquel Welch in a swimsuit.
There you have it. You can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong with that.
It's boyish fun.
Yeah. No, great film actually. Yeah.
I enjoy it a lot. I remember watching it on my birthday a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
First time I'd seen it. Fantastic voyage.
Oh right, I remember watching it. This is my brother died quite a few years ago. I remember watching it with him though, and so yeah, it kind of reminds
yeah,
that might come up again later on.
It may well. Okay, great. So what is your number?
My number 49 is District 9.
Okay.
Which is the Neil Blomkamp film from 2009. And yeah, just a really interesting take on sort of, not even invasion really, just alien colonization. You don't even really find out why they're here, whether they're invading, but they don't seem to be, whether they're colonizing, but they don't seem to be, whether they've crashed, that seems quite possible. Whether they've actually whether they're like criminals that have been sent away, that's something, that's interesting. But it's kind of interesting. I think it's a film it's a South African film, and it was based on the clearing of District 6, which happened in 1966, where a certain area in South Africa was declared a whites-only zone, and 60,000 people were forcibly evicted. And that's what we kind of see, except in this film, they're aliens who are being evicted from a kind of, shanty town by a character called Wickus, I'm not sure, who's a company employee, very overzealous, xenophobic, not particularly pleasant. And then he has an accident. He gets some alien fuel spilt on him, and it contains alien DNA. And he starts to turn into an alien. So he starts to turn into the very thing he kind of hates. And eventually he realizes that the humans are actually the people that are not the kind of nice people. They want to use him. They realize they can make money out of the fact that he's got this hybrid DNA, and they can use it on the aliens' weapons against the aliens, and just as selling weapons in general. And he comes to empathize, and he ends up having to join ranks with an alien, to try and be turned back into a human. And that's really what the gist of the film is.
Set up, okay.
And it just, have you seen that?
I actually haven't. This is a blind spot.
Okay.
It's been meaning to watch.
No,
I
would have thought that's yours. Yeah, great,
yeah, no,
good
I'm
film.
sure
Definitely,
it's going to be great.
Definitely worth a watch.
Okay.
Very different, very original kind of take on. You normally either get kind of we come in peace, or you get sort of we've come to invade. And here you've just got them. We've just come here and we're going to slum it. We're going to.
And it does feel quite politically relevant to sort of. Did you say
apartheid? And I mean, so 2009, I suppose apartheid wasn't really in force anymore. But I imagine that he grew up, knowing of it and living it, I suppose. And and I'm sure racial tension is still there.
An issue. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay. So my number 48, and in this part of my list, I'm going to have a lot of quite fun, campy B movies. I think this is another one. This is Night of the Comet from 1984. And this, I think at the time it was quite a big movie, but has sort of been forgotten since. It's actually said to have inspired Joss Whedon to create the Buffy Summers character from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I do remember him mentioning that actually now, but I'd sort of forgotten that. So very simple B-movie premise, it follows a group of survivors, including one who works at a cinema, of a comet. So there's only 3 of them, so the comet has crashed into Earth, and the rest of the people have been turned either to dust or to zombies. So that's the threat.
I was kind of waiting for zombies.
Actually. Yeah, absolutely. A good old zombie romp. It's a lot of fun, charming characters, some fun, campy dialogue, really cool practical effects, the sort you got in the 1980s. I think some smart, like, cine literate type references. And it romps along. It's a lot of fun. Cool, we've got another email, but that's my number 48, Night of the Comet, which I think you can find on UK Netflix. So, okay, another email. Hi Keith, it's Meg here. My favourite sci-fi movie is... Oh, okay, Bowfinger. Do you like that one?
Bowfinger.
I do like it.
It's not sci-fi, is it?
Unless she means the phenomena, then there's two Eddie Murphys. Maybe that's how she's got to sci-fi.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I do like that film. Yeah, it's great.
Very
it's
entertaining.
Just
Well, I'm glad she brought it up anyway. Thank you, Meg. And that's a friend of mine from online, so thank you very much, Meg. It's a nice surprise to hear from you tonight. Hope you are enjoying the show. And it goes out to Meg. Thanks for the email.
So am I doing 48?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
48.
We're so organised. But this is a little bit, I think, like you with Dune. This is a film that I think was almost a masterpiece. I mean, it could have been in my top 10, apart from... It just goes off the rails towards the end. So it is Danny Boyle's Sunshine from 2007. And I mean it's such a shame because it's so good for 3/4 of the film, and then it just turns into a kind of slasher horror movie at the end, and it's just not even a horror movie, just a thriller, and not even a very good one. But it's kind of it's about people traveling to the sun, and it's quite sort of, it's always got this sort of transcendental kind of feel about the sun, has this sort of transcendental kind of power over these people. They're having this kind of spiritual kind of connection with the sun, and that's kind of partly where the thriller thing comes from, but it just doesn't work. And then and then the thriller thing kind of gets dealt with, and then you've got this quite surreal ending, which is so strange in the context of this film. You sort of think, is this a dream? Is it just allegorical, or is it really happening? And we're just kind of supposed to go with it, and it's never 100% clear. And I've sort of said, well, these things kind of they work or they don't work, And I think in this case it does work. So it's just this one little bit in this film that ruins it, and and that's why it's so low down on my list actually, which is such a shame because it just was a much better film than it ended up being, if you know what I mean. There was a much better film in there. Yeah, I know. I think there may have been reasons. I think maybe the actor might have died that they were going to cast, or resigned, or walked out, or something. I couldn't. I was actually Googling it, and I couldn't find any information. But I do remember hearing this and they had to film around it, and this probably kind of sort of ruined the film actually a bit.
Okay.
So a real shame there, because I think that, it could have been Danny Boyle's masterpiece really, but kind of isn't.
There you go. Okay, that's Sunshine. Your what was
48.
that? 48. Okay. Do you want to do one more, and then we'll have a quick bit of music?
Yeah, but it's you.
It's me first. Okay. Number 41. Well, this is much bigger.
47.
Sorry, 47. Jumping ahead. Yeah, time travel. 47. Much bigger film. I don't need to say much about this. It is Star Wars. As in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, to give it. So we talked a lot about this on the show. It holds up really well. It's very enjoyable. It's sort of changed the bar for sort of space adventure. I like it mostly for the characters and their interactions. They all have their own sort of distinct role, and it's a great example how to do the 3-act structure. Good effects that still hold up today, and an exciting universe. I don't have the attachment of some people, but I still enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I also don't have the attachment of some people. And
I find it overrated, but I still enjoy it. It's still very...
Yeah, it was one of those films that when it came out, it was groundbreaking. I mean, it certainly seemed that way to me anyway as a kid. I mean, I was exactly the right age. I was 9, and it was just amazing. But
okay.
It didn't. It hasn't quite stood the test of time entirely. It's I don't love it the way I used to, but it's a pretty good film.
It stands up.
So is that your choice? Is your choice that one film, or is it the trilogy?
Yeah, I think I think the reason I didn't do the whole trilogy is it's been a while since I've seen the other 2 parts. I think as a trilogy it does hold up quite well, but yeah, it's more recently I've seen the stuff. So yeah, do you?
So my number 47 is it's an older film. It's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, from 1954. Richard Fleischer, who also directed Fantastic Voyage, as well as Tora Tora Tora,
wow.
and he did the remake of The Jazz Singer. Tora 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 is one of Stanley Kubrick's favourite films.
Okay.
But this is a film I saw as a kid. It's a Disney film. It's one of his earlier films, Fleischer's earlier films. But it's Kirk Douglas, James Mason, Peter Lorre, Paul Lucas. The story of Captain Nemo, the Nautilus, giant squid. It's got everything you need, really. It's just a lot of fun. It's not. I was going to say campy. Is it campy? It's not really campy. It's just a bit Disney, but it's great. I mean, it's got that same feel actually as you said about Fantastic Voyage, just sitting there with your family. Sort of Bank Holiday Monday. Oh look, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea's on, and we'll watch it. Look, there's a giant squid. It's great, and great performance from Mason as well.
James Mason.
Yeah.
Good choice. Thank you, Ray. Meg's got back in touch. Says, hi, I don't know Keith. Was online. Must be a coincidence. So, and a lovely little face. Thank you, Meg, for getting in touch once again. And more correspondence, which is great. Graham just says, thanks, lads. So random, but I'm assuming he means for the fantastic show. Thank you.
Obviously he does.
Absolutely. Thanks, Graham. And an email from Eve. She says, I agree with Ray on Star Wars becoming less amazing as time goes on. However, I loved Rogue One. I think it really recaptures the essence of Star Wars. So that is Eve's opinion, and feel free to chip in if you agree or differ. Thank you, Eve, for getting in touch. So in a bizarre sort of format change, I'm actually going to do the next two, which probably Ray will explain, and we'll go to Ray.
No.
Ray to do two.
Got this completely wrong.
Oh, explain that.
I'm doing two in a row, but there's a reason. You'll find out the reason. You do the next one, I'll do the next one after that, then you...
Okay.
Oh, we went through this with the
So
others.
me now.
He's got it all wrong.
Me now.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, just guide me, Ray. This is so confusing. Okay, so we're back to another one of my fun, sort of trashy B movies. This is one which is kind of a sci-fi and a horror, like a lot on my list. It's called Terror Vision from 1986. It's basically, the premise is that a bunch of aliens are transported to Earth through a television aerial. So it's a very 1980s sort of plot. It has all these jokes about MTV, all these jokes about sort of stoner culture. It has fun practical effects. It has cheesy but fun lines. Really good practical effects. I love the look of the monsters, very scrunchy and slimy. It ticks all those boxes. But as well as being kind of entertaining in a trashy way, I think there is actually a charm to it. And I think it does this 1980s sort of thing of actually having active kids where they're actually proactive. And I love films like that. It's, very entertaining. And there's an addictive theme song to it, which sounds a bit like a cross between Kate Bush and Susie and the Banshees, with something a little bit more cheesy.
I think I'd like to hear that.
Yeah, listen to the song on YouTube. It's a lot of fun. The film's on YouTube as well. Terror Vision.
I've heard of it. I've not seen it, but
I really like it. My 46. Over to you.
My 46 is Sleeper, the Woody Allen film from 1973.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So Woody Allen, Diane Keaton, and this is kind of an early-ish Woody Allen film. It's kind of, he wasn't doing the kind of Bananas type of thing, but he wasn't doing Annie Hall either. And I think this is kind of his golden period. Actually, I think this is when he was just funny. He wasn't trying to be this kind of serious thing. And I mean, this is his. So a guy gets cryogenically frozen when he goes into a hospital for a routine operation, and he wakes up 200 years later in this kind of oppressive. This oppressive government and everything, but it's just a MacGuffin because it's just he's just has to escape this government, and at one point he dresses up as a robot and he gets sent to Diane Keaton's house and to be like her servant, and they have these futuristic gadgets. They have the Orgasmatron, which is like a machine that you go in and have a nice time, and but there's a bit where they have the orb, so they kind of have a party and all these kind of hipsters sort of. 200 years from now, hipsters, and they pass this orb round, and it's kind of like drugs because Woody Allen's passing it to each of them, and he's getting more and more stoned as he's kind of doing it. And and they kind of have this giant fruit farm where they grow giant pieces of fruit, and of course he does the kind of classic slipping on a giant banana skin, So, and it's just full of a lot of visual gags and Jewish robots. That was another one. They're tailors. They make him a suit. These but they're very Jewish, and they kind of start arguing over how they're going to make the suit and everything. And just things like, and at one point he goes to McDonald's, and I think this is kind of a joke. And there's jokes about the fact that he runs a health food store in Greenwich Village in 1973. And they're going, so what? So he sells cigarettes and he sells, high-fat steak and everything. No, he sells rice and, and then they're going, really? But this stuff's... We know now that, all this other stuff is really healthy. And it's kind of ironic because I actually think that, more and more people are sort of saying, this is healthy, actually. Well, not the smoking bit, but... the kind of, that actually eating a lot of these kind of health food things is not terribly healthy. And I just think it was quite interesting because he did it entirely as a joke, and it kind of wasn't.
Brilliant.
So
it's me now.
Yeah, now it's you.
Okay.
Now it's you.
What year is that from? Sorry?
That's 1973.
Yeah, I need to catch up with that. I've had it on DVD for a while. So
yeah, no, it's very funny.
I hear good things. So my number 45. Yeah, that's right. Another fun sort of adventure, very charming, and that's Inner Space from 1987, the Joe Dante film.
The remake of Fantastic Voyage.
Absolutely, there's a link here. Similar plot, but done in a very different way.
Is it Meg Ryan as well?
Yeah, adventurous. Early Meg Ryan, where she seemed a really up-and-coming, promising star before she got typecast, really, But... she's fantastic. You have Dennis Quaid as this sort of Han Solo swagger sort of pilot. You have Martin Short, who was hot at the time. Great physical actor, really great slapstick performance. And the three of them just have really good chemistry and bounce off each other really well. And Dante does these sort of like really fun adventure movies really well. He casts very well. Lots of fun jokes. I love the joke in the doctor's surgery quite early on where, the thing's being injected into him and he starts hearing the voice.
It goes in by accident, doesn't it?
There's a whole plot, but similar to Fantastic Voyage. But the sort of gag is that obviously at first he doesn't know what the hell has gone on. It's been injected into him, this sort of space craft, which has... Dennis, is it Dennis? No, it's Randy Quaid.
No, Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid. But yeah, he's in the doctor's surgery, and there's this whole thing where he's going through the potential symptoms, and he jumps up and says, "I'm possessed, I'm possessed," and I love that scene. Great physical comedy, like the performance, charming, a lot of fun. Inner Space is my number 45. And that's from 1987.
Okay. So this is why I wanted to do my 45 and my 44 at the same time, because they're effectively the same film, and 44 is a short. So, but it's 12 Monkeys at number 45 and La Jetée at number 44, which is the Chris Marker film from 1962. And they're basically 12 Monkeys was a remake of La Jetée, and I kind of need to talk about La Jetée first, really, because it's the original. So this is my number 44, and I'm going to then go backwards. But it's a film made entirely using photographs. So there's no moving pictures apart from one shot. There's one shot of a woman's face where she's blinking. But it's about a man who's remember. It's set just after the Third World War, and he's remembering this incident in his childhood where he sees a man getting shot at an airport. And killed at an airport, and he remembers the woman's face, and then he gets sent back in time as a guinea pig. It's this very complicated plot. He gets sent back in time as a guinea pig because the people of the present are dying, and they're running out of food, they're running out of medicine and everything. So they need to send him to the future to get future humanity to send them back the very stuff that is going to save them, so that future humanity can exist. But they have to test it by sending him back in time. He goes back in time. He meets the woman that he remembers from the airport, and starts kind of having this sort of, I guess it's a relationship with her, and then comes back and other stuff happens. Now, if you've seen that or you've seen 12 Monkeys, you'll know. 12 Monkeys changed it a bit to a virus, So my number 45. So I've gone backwards now, as it should be with time travel films. It shouldn't be linear, should it?
No.
But so 12 Monkeys, obviously Terry Gilliam. It's 1995, and it was written by David Peoples, who wrote Blade Runner, wrote the script for Blade Runner.
All right.
And Bruce Willis, Madeline Stowe, early Brad Pitt, not early, but early-ish Brad Pitt film, and Christopher Plummer, so always good to have Captain Von Trapp in a movie.
Very good.
And Willis is just excellent. But what Gilliam really did with it was he kind of streamlined the story and he just simplified it, which is a bit ironic because he had like 2.5 hours, and in La Jetée they managed it in 25 minutes. But he managed to streamline the story to something kind of slightly palatable, or maybe that was Peoples who did that. But he kept the initial thing of the guy seeing somebody being shot at this airport, and that's really important. And it's kind of, I don't want to kind of go into that too much if you haven't seen it. So that's my 45 and 44. So now it's
and sort of funny, I should mention the Meg who's tuning in tonight is tuning in all the way from Las Vegas. So, so it must be a culture shock listening to those cheesy little ads.
You must be missing the sound of England.
Thank you for everyone for getting involved tonight. So moving on to my number 44. And there's a link to Bruce Willis and another one of his best films, I think. It's Luc Besson's delightful The Fifth Element from 1997, set in a sort of a Blade Runner-ish type world. So,
go on.
Even more stylish, in my opinion, if that's possible. And so Willis plays like a former army operative who's now a cab driver, flying cabs appropriately, and
wearing a futuristic vest.
Absolutely, a character played by Mira. How do you say her name? Djokovic. We'll go with something like that. She lands in his cab, and he sort of eventually agrees to help her on this mission to uncover these mysterious rocks, I believe, which are going to help them to mystical stones. That's the term I was looking for, which is going to help them save the universe, basically. So it's a breathtaking film. The visual aesthetic is awesome. Great use of music, charming. Fun cap. The only bit I don't like is Chris Tucker doing his Eddie Murphy impressions. He's very annoying. The rest of the film is beautiful. It's a beautiful world.
Am I allowed to disagree
Great
with you? It
fine.
I thought it was terrible.
No, you're wrong. It's brilliant.
Well,
it's a joy.
Okay.
It's good we've come to one we disagree on. It just wouldn't be fun.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, great.
You might disagree.
I love The Fifth Element from 97. You'll go.
Okay, for me, number 43 is Primer, Shane Carruth from 2004.
Which I mentioned last week.
Yeah, and I don't know I can't remember what you said about it, but I mean, it's an incredibly complex and confusing film, but it's completely intriguing. So I don't know how much to say about it really, because it's one of these sort of films. It has no exposition. You just kind of get jumped into this world, and stuff is happening, and gradually you start going, are these guys doing this thing? And it's what they are. But it was made on a shoestring. He made it for $7,000, shot on 16mm. And to some extent you can see that. But he used every penny of that. I mean, apparently he had a 2-to-1 shooting ratio, so he could only do at most two takes of everything, and he couldn't do coverage and things like that, just to get it made. But what he said was he was interested in this idea of Richard Feynman, is it the physicist? I think he's a Nobel Prize physicist, I think. Worked on the Manhattan Project, I think. But he had something about elemental particles, and they could travel in time backwards and forwards. He thinks. I'm not sure. I'm no physicist, believe me. My wife is, but I'm not. And so this kind of inspired this film. And he kind of said he wanted to make a film where people actually, he wanted to portray scientific discovery in a realistic and down-to-earth way, and show that the biggest discoveries are sometimes just made in someone's back garage. And he wanted his time machine, it's a time machine film, to look like a prototype. So he didn't, he said in Hollywood films you always have prototypes they've put the flashing lights and the neatly chrome sort of finish on it and everything, and he just wanted a kind of a metal box with wires coming out of it. So what he said about it, he said this machine is Abe and Aaron's, they're the two characters. Experience are inherently complicated, so it needs to be that way in order for the audience to be where Abe and Aaron are, which was always my hope. So he deliberately made a very confusing, complicated, hard to follow film, but it's never boring and it's utterly intriguing and just made on a shoestring and just shows what you can do. It's one of those films. It's a bit like kind of there's some of those French New Wave movies, where you just kind of think, oh God, I could just get a camera and go out and make a movie tomorrow.
Yeah, good point.
And it kind of, I think it's quite inspiring in that sense.
Fascinating film. It may or may not appear in my list. No spoilers, but that's Primer. And my number 43, gone for an older choice now, quite retro, and it is Quatermass and the Pit from 1967.
I thought you were going to say the Quatermass Experiment.
Well, could have been, but I went with Quatermass and the Pit. Delightful movie, delightful sets, fun characters. It's, of course, an alien invasion type plot where it's crash landed onto the London Underground. And I was on the London Underground just today, and how gutting then that didn't happen when I was there. It would have livened things up.
I used to commute on the London Underground, believe me. You did see
just
a few
dreaming of an alien
once in a while.
Landing. Charming film, great sets, really stylish, fun characters. It's a lot of fun. Some interesting ideas in there. That's Quatermass and the Pit from 1967. Over to you.
So my number 42 is this is the film I was talking about, where there was a bit like you kind of was it David Lynch was going to do one of the Star Wars? You were saying. Well, this was mine is Flash Gordon. It's Mike Hodges from 1980.
Okay.
With Sam Jones, Max von Sydow, Melody Anderson.
Really good cast.
Ornella Muti, amazing cast.
Timothy Dalton.
Peter Wingard, Tim Dalton, Brian Blessed.
Isn't Richard O'Brien in it? Unless I'm getting
I think maybe he is actually.
Yeah, everyone's in it.
It's and Mike Hodges. I mean, obviously more famous for making Get Carter. But Nick Rogue was going to direct this film. And he got fired, mostly because he wasn't making it commercial enough. But he got to the point where he had sets designed. I don't think they were built, but he was quite way into it, and apparently he really wanted to do it. And I mean, as it is, you've ended up with a fairly camp sort of movie, with a fantastic soundtrack by Queen. Which is actually one of the reasons I love it so much. Actually, I had the soundtrack album when I was a teen, and I just played it incessantly.
I think even my mum or my brother did. I remember it being on in their house.
And Mike Hodges, as well, just a little aside, came to my university when I was a student, and I met him and had a little chat with him, and he was a lovely guy. And I did want to say, my favourite film was Flash Gordon, and I thought I've got to sort of say no, it's Get Carter, really. But it's not. It's Flash Gordon, really.
It's Flash Gordon, which I enjoy a lot. So over to me now, my number 42, and another obscure cult movie. This comes from Japan, and it is called Tatsuo the Iron Man from 1989. So, it sort of fits into the horror / sci-fi sort of range. I mentioned it actually when I was doing horror a long time ago, and I described it as like Terminator meets RoboCop, but on acid, as if it's been put into a blender. I absolutely love this movie. It's this really stripped down, really full on nuts and bolts B movie, lots of sort of fun, scrungy, gross out moments, brilliant practical effects. It's all shot in black and white, which is just brilliant. The black and white works really well. I can't imagine it not being shot in that. And I mean, simple premise, you have a metal enthusiast or fetishist of all things, and well, his hobby comes back to bite him because he gets cut, he gets a bit of metal inside him, and slowly he transforms into the Metal Man, or the Iron Man of the title. And the transformation scenes are just brilliant, and it's very metaphorical. It's that sort of body horror style film, and it's grotesque, but it's balls to the wall, entertaining. There's this brilliant metallic sort of soundtrack almost. It's almost like a heavy metal soundtrack, but with just noises, like metallic sort of noises. I remember freaking the life out of my older brother. I taped it on film for one Christmas. I put it on Christmas morning, and I got some dirty looks. But I'll let you know. I'll let you people be the judges of who was the Grinch, me or my brother. It was him, folks. And there's a sequel as well. I think there's a couple of sequels, but
I remember it, but I don't think I've seen it.
Absolutely loved it. Tatsuo the Iron Man from 1989. Right. On to you.
So my number 41 is Blade Runner 2046. Which is the sequel. The Denis Villeneuve 2017 film. Ryan Gosling, Jared Leto, Robin Wright, Harrison Ford, Ana de Armas, and Sylvia Hooks. Nice. I've got it all written down here. I mean, for me, it kind of had a pretty much impossible task, which was to follow up Blade Runner, which is one of the more influential films kind of ever made, really, not just science fiction films, I think.
That's fair.
I mean, it's one of these sort of films that completely changed the look of science fiction, and this film had to kind of follow that. And I think wisely, he didn't try to kind of copy it. He tried to do something original, something different. And I thought he got the tone pretty much right, actually. And what was kind of interesting was it was actually, in terms of themes, that it was actually quite similar to Blade Runner in the original, and obviously the Philip Dick sort of who wrote the novel that Blade Runner was based on. A lot of his stuff about what does it mean to be human, and what is reality, because he was like one of the first writers that went into virtual reality and stuff like that. And of course, this film's got all of that. It's got, and it's very much this idea of what does it mean to be human, and all about dreams. And obviously, Blade Runner was based on a book called Durando's Dream of Electric Sheep. So dreams was a factor, and and some great set pieces. I love the bit in Vegas. Your friend Meg maybe watching holograms of Elvis and Marilyn Monroe, but and they're failing. That was kind of amazing, I mean, visually very beautiful. And it was almost fitting.
I thought so they did a really great job.
They did do a really good, and he's doing Dune. He's doing the remake of Dune.
He is, so possibilities. We'll see how that goes.
I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Really talented director. So my number 41 and the last of this part for me, The Iron Giant from 1999. And this is a brilliant family animation based on the Ted Hughes novel. It's directed by Brad Bird, who went on to do The Incredibles. Really good voice cast, really great, delightful animation, really lightness of touch. It's this charming relationship between the boy and the Iron Giant of the title. And it just sweeps you along. There's a lot of charm. There's a lot of depth to it. I think it works across the board for a family audience. It's really well written. And, holds up very well. I'd say one of the best animations of the last 20 years, possibly one of the best sci-fis of the last 20 years. Will stand the test of time, I think. The Iron Giant.
I mean, the book has,
from 99.
I've read the book. I've never seen the
film. Very good. Very good. Do you have one more? Have you done?
I've done 41. That was Blade Runner 2046.
Excellent. So that's a good way to end. So Iron Giant at number 41 for me, Blade Runner 2046 for Ray. And Ray, we've got a couple of minutes, so you can quickly do your TV movie of the week.
Well, my TV movie of the week is another sci-fi film, but it's one of the best. It's Back to the Future.
Absolutely.
It's on Film 4 on Saturday at 4:40 in the afternoon. Just a fantastic film. I don't know. I may get to say more about it in future weeks. You never know. But just a lot of fun. One of the films that I saw as a teenager, when it came out, and I think probably one of the best films of the 80s, really.
I think
just one of those. I mean, it's almost like it's a film that stood the test of time in a way that I don't think anybody would have dreamt. There's so many films like that got made, and they've just been forgotten. And this one sort of hasn't been forgotten. I think it's just so good. I think it's there's no plot holes in it. It's everything. Yeah. Everything is kind of everything that happens pays off
for a reason.
Yeah, it pays off at some point in the film, and even down to the guy being called Marvin Berry, and then
Yeah,
he plays Johnny B. Good,
Yeah.
and of course his cousin is Chuck Berry. It's just a little throwaway gag, but even that, it's like there's just no everything pays off in this film, and it's just a very satisfying film to watch. Unlike, I'm afraid, in my opinion, the two sequels, which were not worthy of this film.
Okay, we'll get to that.
We can talk about that.
to them, I'm sure. Thank you very much, Ray. That's his
Thank
TV
you.
movie of the week. And we're out of time. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll be back with more sci-fi movies next week. Have a good week, and me and Ray will see you next week. Good night.
Good night.